Hello lovelies, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to cut a perfect queen and a neckline bustier. If this looks like what you want to learn how to make, then you want to keep watching this video to the end, and let's get started. So guys, we'll be starting with the front, and I already have my pattern paper here, and the first thing I'm going to do is to roll out a straight line on the top of my paper, and this is going to serve as a starting line and also the guideline. The next thing I'm going to do is to take my vertical body measurements. I'll be marking my shoulder to bust point, which is 10 inches, shoulder to under bust, which is 13 inches, and then shoulder to the waistline, which is 16 inches. I'll also mark that on this side as well, and then I'm going to connect that with a straight line. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark the shoulder measurement divided by 2, and the shoulder measurement I'm working with is 14 divided by 2 is 7. I'm going to mark that down on this point, okay, and then I'm going to be coming down on this point by 1 inch. That is going to be for the shoulder slope. And then for the neck width, because this is a small size, I'll be using 2.5 inches. If you are working with a big size, you can go ahead to use 3 inches, but make sure that your neck width is not wide, it's not too wide, because this is a queen and neckline. Okay, if it's too wide, you find out that the shoulder is going to be falling off after making the dress. So I used 2.5 inches, and then I'm just going to connect that to the 1 inch I came down by on the shoulder. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to come down by 7 inches. That is the armhole measurement. Okay, so I'll be using 7 inches for that, and then from this point I'm also going to confirm the shoulder measurement, which is 7 inches, and then I'm going to connect with a straight line. So guys, after that I'll just go ahead to extend this line like so. Okay, so this is going to serve as our chest line. So I'm just going to be labeling, this is the chest line, this is the bust point, this is the under bust, this is the waist line. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to mark out the nipple to nipple measurements I'm working with, and for this project I'm using 7 inches, and 7 inches divided by 2 is 3.5. so I'll be marking that down, placing the tape on the center front like so. I'll be marking it on the chest line, and I'll also go ahead to mark it on the waistline as well, and then I'll go ahead to connect that with a straight line. So after this, the next thing I'm going to do is I'll be coming down from the shoulder line by 6 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to mark 6 inches on this point, and then I'll also mark 6 inches on this point, and then I'm just going to connect that with a straight line as well. So for our front armhole curve, I'm going to be measuring what I have here, and then I'll divide it by 2, and this is 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. I'm going to mark that on this point, and then I'm going to go in by half of an inch. Okay, and then on the chest line I'm going to be measuring the bust measurements divided by 4, and the bust measurement I'm working with is 34 divided by 4 is 8.5. I'm going to mark that down on this point, and then I'll use my curve rule to connect. So if you don't have this, you can go ahead to use your free hand. Okay, I'm using the pattern master because I have it and it's easier. So after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to extend my nipple to nipple measurement, okay, which is this line to the top. So I'm going to be marking the same 3.5 inches I had marked, and then I'm going to be connecting this to this part. So guys, after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to take my darts, okay, for the front bodies, and for the center front, okay, this side going towards the center front, I'll be marking half inch on the waistline, and also on the under bust I'll mark half inch, and then on the side going towards the armhole, okay, I'm going to be marking 1.25 inches, okay.
So be marking 1.25 on the bust point and also 1.25 on the under bust.
If you're working with a bigger size, you can go ahead to mark 1 inch on this side going towards the center front, and then on the side going towards the side front, you can go ahead to mark 1.5 inches. So I'll just go ahead to connect this with a straight line. And then on the bust point, I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch. And then I'm just going to connect from this point to this point, and from this point to this point as well. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to take out my dart on the top part as well, and because I'm working with a small size, I'll be using 0.75 inches on both sides, okay. But if you're working with a bigger size, you can go ahead to use 1 inch on both sides. So I'll just go ahead to connect this, okay, to the bust point, but I'll be going up on the bust point by half of an inch before I connect that. If you're working with a bigger size, you can go up by 1 inch from the bust point before connecting, okay. But since I'm working with a smaller bust size, I went up by half inch from the bust point, and then I'm just going to be connecting this like so, and then like so as well. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do now is to connect from this point. I'll be coming in from this side front by half of an inch, okay, and then I'm just going to connect that into our neck width. So this is how it looks. The next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to be measuring what I have here and what I have on this line as well. So guys, if you measure this and you realize that it's shorter, if you realize that one part is shorter, what you need to do is to go up by, like I measured this and I realized that it's actually the same. But if you measure it and you realize that one part is shorter, what you need to do is to go ahead and add whatever is left on the top part like so, okay. So you make sure that this part goes up higher than this other side, so it aligns when you are joining your pieces together. Let me show you how you are going to do that. So if you go ahead to measure this and you get maybe I actually got 4.25 here and 4.25 on this side as well. So assuming I got 4.25 here and then I got 4 here, because sometimes this part tends to be shorter, what you need to do is to replace 0.25 on the top of this part, okay, and then you create your neckline. So for the neck depth of this piece, I'm going to be using 7 inches, or okay, I'm going to be using 7.5 inches. That's, I'm coming down from this 6 inch by 1.5, and then I'm going up from the chest line by half inch. So you can decide to do any neckline of your choice depending on how revealing you want it to be. So I'm going to be connecting from this point to this point. So guys, this is a neckline, okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is to replace the darts that I took, and for this part I took 1.5 inches. I'm going to be replacing that on this point, okay. So I'll be extending this line and then replacing the dots, as you can see. And then I'm going to be taking my bust measurement. I've already done that, which is the bust measurement divided by 4 on this point. I'm just going to replace whatever I have here. I have 0.75 here. I'm going to be replacing that on this part, okay? And then I'll go ahead to connect the new armhole. And this is how it looks. So the next thing I'm going to do is to add my sewing allowance. I'll be using 1.5 inches. And then on the waistline, I'll go ahead to mark the waist I'm working with. And the waist I'm working with is 28. I'm dividing that by 4, okay? To give me 7, I'm going to mark that, and then I'll replace the dot I have here, okay, which is about 1.75. I'm going to replace that here, and then I'm going to add my sewing allowance of 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to connect that to the top like so. So guys, I'm going to be cutting this piece out. So guys, this is how it looks, okay? So I'm not yet done. We are going to be altering this, okay? So I'll just go ahead to cut this part out. So you remember that this is the yoke. That's it. We are going to be altering the yoke, okay? So because we had replaced the dart on this part, it's no longer lapping the way it should. Remember, we went in by half of an inch here to create our yoke. So we're still going to be doing the same, okay? We're going to be marking half inch inwards and then connecting it back to this point. But if you want it depends on what you want to create, okay? It depends on what you want to achieve. So now I'm going to be connecting from this part to this part, okay? But if you want, you can just go ahead to measure about 3 inches, okay, or 3.5, like so, and then you connect it like this. So you can see how it's looking after doing that. Okay, I think I'm just going to maintain this. I'm just going to maintain this line. I'll just go ahead to cut it out like this. So guys, you can see how it's looking now. Our Queen Anne neckline front bodice is ready. So this is how it looks. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to be cutting out about 0.25 inches from the top and on this part as well to avoid gaping, okay? So I'm just going to mark 0.25 on this side and then 0.25 on this side as well. And then I'll just cut it, okay? Just blend it in and then cut. This is to avoid gaping. So guys, this is the final look of our Queen Anne front bodice, okay? And if you are going to cut this on your fabric, remember to cut the center front on fold, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out the back. So guys, for the back, I'll go ahead to mark out my zipper allowance, okay? And for the zipper allowance, I'm going to be using 1.5 inches, okay? So I'll be marking 1.5 inches on the top and on the lower part, and then I'll just go ahead to connect it with a straight line. But before I do that, I'll go ahead to roll out a straight line on my paper This is going to serve as the starting line, and then I'll mark my shoulder to waist, which is 16 inches. Okay, and then I'm also going to mark it on this other side as well, and then I'm going to connect that with a straight line. Next thing to do is to connect our zipper allowance line like so. Okay, then I'm going to take the shoulder measurement I'm working with, which is 7 inches. 14 inches divided by 2 is 7. I'm going to mark that on this point. So the neck width for the back is going to be the same as the neck width for the front. And take note, for the back, your back neckline has to be high. You make sure that your back neckline is high. For this project, I'll be using 1.5 inches. You can use 1 inch, okay? So just make sure that your back neckline is high. So I'm just going to connect that into the neck width. So this is going to be our back neckline, and then we are going to extend that into the zipper allowance line. So guys, for the shoulder, I'm going to be coming down on this point by 1 inch, the same way we did for the front, and then I'm just going to connect that into the neck width. And then for the armhole, I'm also going to be using 7 inches, which is the armhole measurement for this project. I'm going to mark that down like so, and then confirm the shoulder measurement on this point as well. And then I'm just going to connect that to meet the shoulder line. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to extend this line, okay? And this is going to serve as our chest line, okay, for the back. This is the chest line. I'm going to take my bust measurements divided by 4. Okay, so I'm going to be placing that on this line, and then bust divided by 4, which is 8.5. I'm going to mark that down, okay, and then create the armhole for the back pattern. So guys, this is how it looks. The next thing I'm going to do is to take my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. I'm going to be adding ½ inch to that, okay, for sewing allowance. This is the back piece. We are going to be taking that for the back, so I'll be using 4 inches for this, okay, and then I'm just going to connect that with a straight line as well. And then I'll be coming down on the chest line of the back by 1 inch, and then I'm going to be taking ½ inch on both sides of the dart legs, and then I'm going to connect that into this point. So guys, that's how our back dart is going to look like. And then I'm going to be adding my sewing allowance for this part, which is 1.5 inches, and then on this part I'm going to be measuring the waist measurement, which I'm working with, which is 28 divided by 4 is 7. Okay, so I'm going to be dividing that by 4, mark that here, and then I'm also going to replace the dart of 1 inch on this part, and then add the sewing allowance of 1.5 inches, and then I'm just going to connect that. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to go in on this part by ½ inch, okay? So for those of you that have been following this channel, you know that we always do that to reduce zipper bulge, okay? So I'm going to be coming in by ½ inch on this part and on this part, okay, to eliminate zipper bulge. And then I'm just going to connect that back into the zipper allowance. Another thing I do on the channel is I also go up on the back by 1 inch. That's because the back piece is the back half length is shorter than the front. So by doing this, it's also going to help eliminate zipper bulge. So I'm just going to go up by 1 inch, and then I'm just going to connect that into the side piece as well. So the next thing we are going to do now is to cut out the back piece. Okay, so you can go ahead to create any neckline of your choice for the back, but whatever you are doing, make sure that the back neckline is high. Okay, so you can go ahead to do something stylish by adding a yoke to your back pattern, but make sure that this top part is high. So guys, this is how the back piece looks, and this is how the front piece looks. Okay,